They left the pagoda to visit the Shvetalayong. This figure of the Buddha, built of brick and covered with an outer layer of plaster, measured some 180 feet in length. The gentle face of the golden robed Buddha seemed to smile at them. Shinichi said to the high priest Nitatsu, Shakyamuni is smiling because you, the high priest, have come to see him. No, the high priest said, it's you he's delighted to see. The two men grinned at each other. The group then turned to Rangoon and rested for a while at their hotel. Early that evening, they visited a Japanese cemetery in the city to conduct a memorial service for Shinichi's eldest brother, Kikou. The cemetery, surrounded by a stone wall, was thickly wooded. Inside was a stone monument bearing the inscription, in the memory of those who died in action in the Greater East Asia War. The monument had been erected in May 1947 by surviving members of Japanese army units stationed in Burma during the war, in memory of their fallen comrades. Many had lost their lives in the ill-fated Imphal campaign, launched from Burma by the Japanese army on March 8, 1944. This attempt to capture the strategically important township of Imphal in northeastern India has been called the most reckless military operation of the Pacific War. The Japanese army invaded Burma, then a British colony, in January 1942, only weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor. By March, the Japanese had occupied Rangoon and within a short space of time had gained control of the entire country. The Burmese Independence Army fought on Japan's side in the invasion. Aung San, father of Aung San Suu Kyi, the 1991 Nobel Peace Prize laureate, was one of the Independence Army's leading figures. He had cooperated with the Japanese because he thought it would lead to Burma's independence from British rule. With a number of Burmese comrades, he had traveled to the Chinese island of Hainan, then occupied by Japan, to receive military training. The Japanese had initially promised to grant Burma independence in the invasion if the invasion was successful. But once they took possession of Burma, Burmese autonomy was deemed premature and postponed indefinitely. This naturally undermined support for the Japanese army among the Burmese people and unleashed a storm of anti-Japanese criticism. Intent on launching a counter-offensive against the Japanese and recapturing Burma, retreating British troops stationed themselves in and around Indian border towns such as Imphal. Mounting tensions on the Indian-Burmese border persuaded the Japanese army to forego consolidating its defenses in favor of initiating an all-out attack on Imphal, thereby dealing a decisive blow to the British. This was the so-called Imphal campaign. Reaching Imphal from Burma meant traversing treacherous mountainous terrain. The plan had originally met with strong opposition, most holding the opinion that it would be impossible to effectively supply frontline units in the region with sufficient food, munitions, fuel, and other materials. The operation was devised by the commander of the 15th Army assigned to defend northern Burma. Known for his overbearing pride and violent temper, the commander obstinately insisted on going ahead with the plan. That he had already distinguished himself in ousting the British may well be contributed to his complacency and carelessness. He may also have thought he would be vindicated, even praised, if the campaign was ultimately successful. Overconfidence and personal ambition seem to have won out over carefully weighing the possible outcome. When his chief of staff spoke out against the operation, the commander had him replaced for being too passive. When leaders ostracize those who express opinions contrary to their own, simply surrounding themselves with those who obey them like robots, their organization will lose its margin of safety and be destined to run out of control. A substantial number of generals at the imperial headquarters, the central command in Tokyo, was also opposed to the Imphal campaign because of the difficulty of delivering supplies to the frontline units. In August 1943, Japan granted Burma nominal independence and installed the Burma government. But this regime was merely a puppet of the Japanese military authorities, who remained firmly in control. Recognizing Burmese independence enabled Japan to maintain its pretext of building a greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere and was a necessary step in placating growing resentment among the Burmese people. In addition, the Japanese hoped that Burmese independence would fan the flames of the independence movement in India, then still a British colony, causing more turmoil for the British. Japan's imperial headquarters also hoped that military operations in Burma would create a breakthrough in the steadily worsening tide of the war. An atmosphere was created in which strong opposition to the Imphal operation was impossible despite the apparent recklessness of the plan. All opposing opinions were gradually stifled, and with no one willing to make a responsible decision on the matter, the plan was finally set into action. Plans began to be finalized for the Imphal campaign. Ignoring all logistical realities, it was maintained that Imphal could be captured within 3 weeks. The commander of the 15th Army unequivocally declared that capturing Imphal would be a relatively simple affair. Both the theatre commander, who had direct decision-making powers over the matter, and the imperial headquarters ultimately approved the operation. However, the imperial headquarters responded to the request for motor pool reinforcements by sending less than 20% of the needed allotment. In addition, The operation went ahead without any real plans for ensuring that ammunition, food, and other materials would reach the frontline troops. Theoretically and practically speaking, the likelihood of victory was nil. Baseless idealism had blinded the operation planners to the reality of the situation, allowing them to drive tens of thousands of their own soldiers to their death.